What was the sin of Sodom really?
All right, let's see it.
Well, the Bible comes to us and answers this. In Ezekiel chapter 16, starting at verse 49, it says, that it was pride, excess of food, prosperous ease, didn't aid the poor and the needy. It also says that they were haughty and did an abomination, which, the Bible refers to homosexuality as an abomination, which is what happens in that city.
So multiple problems here, beginning with the fact that the actual description of the sin of Sodom is mostly just rushed through in order to land on the very last word, abomination, and then read into Ezekiel's use of that word the popular interpretation of Genesis 19 as a condemnation of homosexuality, which it is not. Genesis 19 is about inhospitality, specifically manifested in all of the men of the city threatening to sexually assault the male visitors, which was an act of domination, an act of subjugation, an act of shaming, something that still goes on in many parts of the world down to today. This is not about same sex attraction. This is not about consensual sex. This is about threatening male visitors with sexual assault. And when we look in Leviticus 18 and Leviticus 20, we do not find them saying homosexuality is an abomination. For one, the word homosexuality as it is used today primarily refers to homosexual orientations, and they had no concept of homosexual orientations that at all approximate how we understand sexual orientations today. So it's not talking about the primary sense of the word homosexuality. Now, if you use it to refer to just same sex intercourse, yes, Leviticus 18 and 20 condemn a man taking the insertive role in an act of male same sex intercourse. That is the activity that is specifically condemned. And the consent of whoever was in the receptive role is not addressed at all, because consent wasn't really a thing back then. Sex was not an activity that two equal agents mutually engaged in. Sex was something that an active sexual agent did to a passive sexual object, and the agency and the consent of that passive sexual object was immaterial. And so, what Leviticus 18 and 20 are condemning is really a man taking the insertive role in an act of male same sex intercourse. But what we have going on in Genesis 19 is not a condemnation of homosexuality. Again, it is about sexual assault of male outsiders, it is about inhospitality, and this is the consensus view of biblical scholars.
But there's something that's a theory out there of an archaeologist that found when they uncovered Sodom and started looking.
Nobody has found Sodom. Nobody has even found any evidence that there was a city called Sodom in this region in the Bronze Age. This is a reference to an archaeologist and apologist named Stephen Collins, who claims that a site known as Tel el Hammam is Sodom, and that an airburst around 1650 BCE destroyed and baked this whole area, and that is the story of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And his claims have been rejected by the overwhelming majority of archaeologists, as well as the overwhelming majority of specialists in the related scientific fields that deal with things like airbursts. And again, even most Christian apologists reject his claims as well. So this is just speculation that is being presented as an actual legitimate theory, but nobody really takes this seriously.
Like, it's the only city in the region that has Aegean architecture. It's got, it's fascinated with the bull, like it would be in the Minoan culture with the Minotaur. It's got columns, which you only find in the Aegean at that point.
The region does not have Minoan architecture. The region has some architectural features that Collins argues have been influenced by Minoan culture.
And so in the Minoan culture, one of the things that they had a practice that in order to become a citizen of the city as a young boy becoming a man, you would be ritualistically kidnapped, taken off into the wilderness with a man who would then, teach you how to become a man. He would take you hunting. He would teach you all those things, but then he would also take advantage of you, if you know what I mean. And then you would come back into the city having been his trophy, explaining how you become a man, and then they would extend citizenship to you.
There are no data that demonstrates any such rite of passage or ritual took place in Minoan culture or anywhere in Syria, Palestine.
So when you have two strangers that come into the city of Sodom, this archaeologist is theorizing that would have been the reason why the people of the city are like, wait a minute, you have not been initiated and yet you're seeking to dwell here. Maybe the reason why all the men of the city are coming to the door is to carry out that really awful, evil initiation rite.
It's definitely not that. That is just pure speculation and based on very poor data. Scholars are in widespread agreement that Genesis 19, the story of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, is about inhospitality manifested in the most horrific way they can imagine. All the men of the city leveraging the threat of sexual assault to demean, to shame, and to subjugate outsiders. The same story is found in Judges 19 as well. This is about the threat of sexual assault. It is not about homosexuality in and of itself, and it's certainly not about a rite of passage that somebody has made up about the Minoan culture. And the fit for this video is Giraffe Studio in lovely Hendersonville, North Carolina.